What's going on, YouTube? The Alphonsus D Gradelock here, back with a deck profile for V Premium this time. Oh boy, Booster Road Spring Fest has been an interesting one in Newark because today we have a top 8 deck profile from...
Hey guys, guess what? It's me, Dan. I'm back again. I'm unstoppable. So I decided Standard was enough. I made my first place again. Premium was enough. I got my top 4. And so I came back to Newark. I was like, let's do it for V. And I somehow did it. I went X1 with Jewel Knights because it's a good deck. It's a really good deck. I had so much fun. And so without further ado, let's just hop right into it. Glyme's our starter. I just need a starter. This is the only starter I had. If you don't like it, deal with it. Main grade 3 is Salome. Salome is our ideal grade 3 ride going second. So basically, if my opponent is already on 3, I want to just turbo out into having Forceful as soon as possible to get their restand on that. Otherwise, our main grade 3 ride going first is Ashley. Ashley allows us to tutor out 2 grade 2 or lowers to our front board. So it's just very aggressive, very high pressure in the situation, especially if you have her in your hand. You can just call her on the rear guard off of Salome's skill and then get more rear guard attacks in. So a lot of this just depends on you having counterblast, like at least one counterblast. So the call over skills sometimes matter, particularly like Ashley's call over, which gives the unit the crit. Salome is another Lail, which gives your unit 10k, which does matter in some situations. But yeah, that's grade 3s. Grade 2s, we have 4 Sybil. Very good in the deck. Very useful to take out any cards that you don't want to see anymore in your hand. Any grade 2 or lowers that lets you turn them into Jewel Knights. That would be, whether it be triggers, your other grade 2 that's not a Jewel Knight, and your non-grade 1 Jewel Knights, non-Jewel Knight grade 1s. And the superior call off the top 3 is very nice. I can't wait for Miranda and Alwyn to get released in V in collections 5 and 6, so this is more consistent and I don't need to worry about whiffing this at all. Next up we have for Lail. Lail is one of your key aspects of the deck. She's part of your recycle engine that soul charges and gets power, so she's a 15k attacker regularly, usually on your force 1 circles in the front board. She's a 25, so very much helps in the early game for pushing and is one of your key grade 2s to play. Rounding our grade 2 lineup is this dude, our Blade Knight, because he is a very good ideal grade 2 ride, but also a really good rear guard to call because he can just get your other grade 2 out on the board, which one you don't have Lail or Sybil in rotation. You don't have to command as many cards to hand. Plus the ability that you can Soul Blast instead of Counter Blast really helps thin out the deck and push for damage. That'll be it for grade 2s. Going on to grade 1s, we have for Eunice. Eunice, very good actually in terms of her retire ability. So when she's called over, she retires a unit in the column. However, if you don't retire a unit, you get a draw. So she's like a second Morvidus, but at the same time, you sometimes want that retired to go off in order to kill problematic units that your opponent might have. She's also very good for being able to fulfill soul conditions for Salome in order to access her skill. So post-battle, she gets to soul charge 1, bottom deck a normal from the graveyard, and then bounce herself back to hand. So you can have aggro turns before you fully commit. And I think that's really where she shines in that aspect. Next up, we have for Morbin time. Basically, you only want her for either your grade 1 ride, or that's pretty much it, because when she's called over or written over, you draw a card. It's the easiest +1 the deck has. Otherwise, she just is a decent grade 1 Jewel Knight rear guard that you want to call. Rounding out grade 1s, Sisyphus, because you want to be able to tutor for what specific grade 3 you want to have in your hand, depending on whether you're going first or you're going second. And that actually makes a lot of the difference in terms of how far you can push the deck into your opponent. The 13k attacker aspect comes into it, especially if you're going second, because as a going second player, you don't have any face-up damage, so this is naturally a 13k. And rounding out grade 1s, we have 1 Herald. I played Herald over having like a 4th grade 2 purely because I want to have a higher chance of opening a grade 1 and not having to G-assist for it than not. Plus, I really like his ability that when you superior call a unit, a grade 2, you get to soul charge himself and give that unit plus 15. So it helps me beat over defensives and whatever have you. He did put in work, a lot of work, and I really respect him for it. Our trigger lineup is a bit, I think you might call it a bit sussy. It's a 6 crit, 6 draw. I did like how well this worked out because whenever I would hit a defensive, it would be a draw, and I would be able to draw into either A, more combo pieces, or B, more shield to survive. And it's just a nice even spread for something like Jewel Knights, especially when you have a Sybil. You could just slot these draw triggers into your soul, get the draw and replace them with something that's more useful, and you're not losing out as much. And then 4 heal guards, it's obviously a staple of the format where you just play 4 heal guards and just go off from there. That'll round up for the deck. My overall record, like I said, was X1, so I really did put in the work with this deck, and I was very proud of its performance. Round 1, I ended up fighting Gear Chronicle, and that was a very weird match because I don't know what exactly happened with my deck. I can probably pinpoint it down to the fact that I ended up not aggroing him as hard as I should have because he missed his grade 3 ride, and because of that he had to use his next stage that he drew into fishing for his Chrono Jet, which is incidentally is good for me, not good for him. Next up after that, I fought Vanquisher. I just ended up conserving all of my hand until my grade 3 turn because he went first. So I didn't have to worry about whatever he was doing until I was already on grade 3. And then I just proceeded to ride Salome and just punch him in like that. Followed up, I fought Magatsu. Magatsu just ended up seeing nothing but a lot of grade 1s. So like his grade 2 combo couldn't work, so he couldn't like do like the full like bounce perfect guard. And I just constantly aggressioned him, so he just ended up not seeing as much success in living through my push turns. Round 4, I fought Raptor Colonel. Raptor Colonel, he ended up seeing all 4 of his heals by the time I got to re-ride my grade 3 because I went first that game. He did the full Raptor Colonel restand, but I hit enough defensives to where it didn't matter and was able to fully stabilize and just not have as much damage in order to push back and survive his aggro turn. So because like between like all of that, like he just ended up losing out in that aspect. Round 5, I fought Melody. Melody was pretty much just a repeat of what I had to fight in finals in BSF 2019 for Team League, which was just take my hand, put it down on the board, and swing face. So every turn, I just had like 2 or 3 attacks on him and just forced guard out of his hand as much as possible. He ended up not denying me CB, so even though I was going second, riding Ashley was pretty much the play for me to make in that situation because she would regenerate 2 rear guards every turn that he would deny me CB. I would just have the resource loop between Lails and Sybils, so I wouldn't have to worry about whether or not I had a field to hit him with. So by the time I rode Salome, he was just already too far gone and too far down on advantage for it to really matter. And then round 6, I fought Amon. Amon is a very weird deck, like both on paper and in practice, and I just ended up guarding a lot of his stuff early and just doing the regular like decent aggro pushes that I could do because of how like Amon works. And he also like fuels my Salome, so it's like, all right, I have to play in such a way that I do want to do stuff like Lail, but at the same time I don't, because I'm just gonna soul charge the Lail that's left on my rear guard anyway. So it's just more or less me doing this, picking whether or not I want to do the skill to recycle normally it's into my deck in order to get the power and the soul charge for other stuff. And then rounding out in top 8, I ended up winning my game against Vert. Shouts to Franz, that was a great game. Literally, I believe he won the dice roll, and I went second, and I just did the same thing I always do against Bermuda, and that's just target card sideways, punch face. And I definitely misplayed towards the end there, but at the same time, the entire thing was a learning experience. It was like first actual tournament taking Jewel Knights into the meta. So I sort of had an idea of what I was doing, but at the same time, it's like, well, I guess I'm flying by the seat of my pants and just sacking. So it definitely was overall a fun, enjoyable experience. We had a nice time fighting pretty much everyone we saw. Shouts to everyone who else made top 8, top 4. All that stuff. Thank you for coming to see us, say hi. And hope to see you guys in the next one. Remember, if you like deck profiles like this one and want to see more, remember to comment, like, subscribe, ring the bell button for daily notifications. And if you're buying any of the cards that you see here on TCG Player, make sure you use our affiliate link down below in the description. Support the channel for the cards you already be buying. And without any further ado, Alphonsus, take it away.
Alright, thank you so much, Dan. Congrats again. Making it for tops in Premium, V Premium, and Standard. Let's go. Alright, guys. Hope you have a good night. The Alphonsus, Dan, Team Gradelock signing out.
Deuces.